Jordan Peterson became known globally as a psychologist who spoke about order, responsibility, and meaning as defenses against chaos and despair. His public message was built on a simple but demanding idea that human beings do not escape suffering, but can transform it into something structured and purposeful if they choose to take responsibility for it. Over time, his lectures, books, and interviews reached millions of people searching for direction in moments of confusion or personal crisis. He framed life as a confrontation with chaos that could only be met through discipline, truth-telling, and voluntary burden. Yet behind the scale of his influence was a human life moving under increasing strain. As his audience expanded, so did the intensity of scrutiny, expectation, and controversy surrounding him. The same principles he taught others, endurance, meaning-making, and confrontation with suffering, would eventually be tested in ways that were no longer abstract or philosophical. What began as an intellectual project about how to live became, in time, a lived experience of the very conditions he had spent decades analyzing. The distance between theory and life would narrow sharply, setting the stage for a period of collapse, recovery, and re-evaluation that would redefine both the man and the public narrative built around him. Early life in northern Alberta. Jordan Peterson was born in 1962 in Edmonton, Alberta, and raised in the small town of Fairview in northwestern Canada. His upbringing took place in a landscape defined by long winters, geographic isolation, and a strong sense of self-reliance. His father worked as a schoolteacher, and his mother was a librarian, creating a home environment shaped by education, reading, and intellectual curiosity rather than wealth or privilege. Books were central to his early development, and he spent much of his youth immersed in literature that explored politics, psychology, and the darker dimensions of human history. Influential works by authors such as George Orwell, Aldous Huxley, and Alexander Solzhenitsyn exposed him early to themes of ideology, authoritarianism, and moral struggle. These readings left a lasting impression, encouraging him to think critically about systems of belief and the consequences of collective thinking. During adolescence, he briefly engaged with political movements but eventually grew skeptical of ideological certainty. Instead, he became increasingly interested in why human beings gravitate toward belief systems that promise order but often produce unintended harm. This early intellectual tension between order and chaos, ideology and individual responsibility, became a defining foundation for his later academic and clinical work in psychology. Academic formation and psychological focus. Peterson began his higher education at the University of Alberta, where he first studied political science before shifting toward psychology. He later completed a doctorate in clinical psychology at McGill University, where he studied under influential researchers in addiction and aggression. His academic work increasingly focused on understanding the psychological roots of destructive behavior, including alcoholism, antisocial tendencies, and ideological belief systems. Rather than treating psychology as purely clinical or descriptive, he approached it as a framework for understanding moral and existential questions. He was particularly interested in how individuals construct meaning and how those meaning systems influence behavior under stress, uncertainty, and suffering. His early research combined clinical observation with broader philosophical inquiry, drawing from mythology, religion, and evolutionary psychology. This interdisciplinary approach set him apart within academic psychology, where specialization is often the norm. By the time he completed his doctorate in 1991, he had already developed a reputation for thinking in broad, integrative patterns, rather than narrow technical categories. This orientation toward synthesis would later become central to his public work, especially as he moved from academic research into teaching and broader cultural commentary. His focus was not only on diagnosing psychological dysfunction, but on understanding how individuals can build coherent lives in the face of uncertainty and suffering. Harvard years and academic development in Canada. In the early 1990s, Peterson joined Harvard University as part of its psychology department, where he conducted research and taught courses on personality, aggression, and substance abuse. His teaching style was intense and demanding, often pushing students to consider not only psychological theory but also its implications for personal responsibility and ethical decision-making. Students frequently described his lectures as intellectually rigorous and emotionally challenging, emphasizing the consequences of ideas in real human lives. After several years at Harvard, he returned to Canada and joined the University of Toronto, where he continued his academic work while also maintaining a private clinical practice. During this period, he treated patients dealing with addiction, depression, and personality disorders, an experience that reinforced his belief that psychological suffering could not be separated from questions of meaning and responsibility. He also began developing lectures that integrated psychology with mythology and religion, particularly focusing on narrative structures as frameworks for understanding human behavior. This work reflected his growing interest in how ancient symbolic systems encoded psychological truths about human nature. Although still primarily an academic, his ideas were gradually moving beyond conventional disciplinary boundaries, laying the groundwork for a later shift into public intellectual life. At this stage, however, his influence remained largely confined to students, colleagues, and clinical patients. Maps of Meaning and the Architecture of Belief. One of Peterson's most significant early works was Maps of Meaning, a dense and ambitious book published in 1999. It attempted to explain how human beings construct belief systems that help them navigate the unknown aspects of existence. Drawing from psychology, mythology, neuroscience, and religious symbolism, the book proposed that humans interpret reality through narrative frameworks that organize experience into order and chaos. Although not widely read at the time of publication, it became foundational for his later work. The central idea was that meaning itself is not merely discovered but actively built through interpretation, behavior, and confrontation with uncertainty. Peterson argued that individuals who fail to construct coherent meaning structures are more vulnerable to anxiety, nihilism, and destructive behavior. Conversely, those who build stable frameworks of responsibility and purpose are better equipped to face suffering. While the book was academically complex and difficult for general audiences, it established many of the conceptual themes that would later define his public lectures and writings. It also reflected his long-standing interest in the psychological function of religious and mythological stories, which he interpreted as encoded maps for navigating human experience. Though initially slow to gain recognition, Maps of Meaning eventually became a cornerstone of his intellectual identity. The 2016 controversy and public attention. Peterson's transition from academic to public figure began in 2016, when he released a series of videos expressing opposition to proposed Canadian legislation regarding gender identity in speech. He argued that compelled language use under legal penalty raised serious concerns about freedom of expression. These statements rapidly circulated online, generating intense debate and widespread media coverage. Supporters viewed him as defending free speech principles, while critics accused him of misunderstanding or misrepresenting the legislation. The controversy expanded quickly beyond academic circles, turning him into a central figure in broader cultural discussions about identity, language, and authority. University environments became sites of protest and counter-protest, and his public lectures attracted both large audiences and organized opposition. His online following grew dramatically, transforming him into a global intellectual presence almost overnight. This period marked a turning point in his career, shifting him from a relatively obscure professor into a highly visible and polarizing public commentator. The intensity of attention brought both opportunity and pressure, as every statement was analyzed, criticized, and amplified across digital platforms. What had begun as an academic position on language and law evolved into a much larger cultural conflict about ideology, freedom, and the boundaries of institutional authority. Global success and the impact of 12 Rules for Life. In 2018, Peterson published 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, a book that combined psychological insight with practical advice on personal responsibility and meaning-making. The book became an international bestseller, reaching millions of readers and establishing him as one of the most prominent public intellectuals of his time. Its appeal lay in its accessibility and its focus on concrete behavioral principles rather than abstract theory. Drawing from clinical experience, mythology, and philosophy, the book encouraged readers to take responsibility for their lives, confront suffering directly, and pursue meaningful goals despite uncertainty. Around this time, Peterson's public speaking career expanded significantly, with lectures, interviews, and podcast appearances reaching global audiences. His discussions often extended for hours and covered topics ranging from psychology to religion and politics. However, the scale of his influence also brought increasing criticism and polarization. Some praised him as a voice of clarity in a confused cultural landscape, while others viewed his ideas as controversial or ideologically loaded. The demands of constant travel, public engagement, and media attention created a high-pressure environment that required sustained emotional and physical energy. Beneath the success, the strain of maintaining such an intense public presence was beginning to accumulate. Pressure, lifestyle strain, and health challenges. As Peterson's public profile expanded, so did the demands placed on his time and energy. He maintained a rigorous schedule of speaking engagements, interviews, academic responsibilities, and clinical work. During this period, he also developed significant health challenges, including autoimmune-related symptoms and severe episodes of depression and anxiety. In response, he adopted a highly restrictive diet that eliminated most foods except meat and a small selection of vegetables, which he believed helped stabilize his condition. At the same time, his family faced serious medical challenges, including his wife Tammy's cancer diagnosis. These overlapping pressures created a prolonged period of emotional and physical strain. The combination of public scrutiny, professional demands, and personal illness placed him in a state of sustained stress. Over time, medical treatment for anxiety led to the use of prescription medication, which initially provided relief, but later contributed to dependency issues. This period marked a gradual but significant deterioration in his health stability. The contrast between his public message of disciplined order and the increasingly chaotic reality of his personal circumstances became more pronounced. While continuing to speak about responsibility and meaning, he was simultaneously navigating a complex and escalating set of personal and medical challenges that were becoming increasingly difficult to manage. Collapse, withdrawal, and medical crisis. By 2019, Peterson's health situation had escalated into a severe crisis involving dependence on benzodiazepine medication. Attempts to discontinue the drug led to extreme withdrawal symptoms, which are clinically known to be physically and psychologically destabilizing. His condition deteriorated rapidly, leading to a period of medical emergency in which his family sought treatment abroad. He was eventually hospitalized in Russia, where he was placed in a medically induced coma intended to stabilize his nervous system. During this time, he also developed complications including pneumonia and significant physical weakness. After several weeks of intensive care and rehabilitation, he experienced a long recovery process that affected his mobility and cognitive function. The experience marked a profound turning point in his life, forcing him to confront vulnerability in a direct and unavoidable way. The man who had spent decades analyzing suffering from a psychological and philosophical distance was now experiencing it in a deeply embodied form. Recovery was gradual and incomplete in many respects, requiring months of rehabilitation and extended absence from public life. The period fundamentally altered his relationship with health, control, and the limits of human endurance. Family illness and parallel struggles. While Peterson was recovering from his medical crisis, his wife Tammy was undergoing treatment for a serious form of kidney cancer. The diagnosis had initially been considered life-threatening, creating an extended period of uncertainty for the family. As his health deteriorated and later began to recover, her condition remained a constant presence in their lives. Cancer treatment involved extensive medical intervention and emotional strain, requiring sustained resilience from both patient and family. In a development that surprised medical observers, her condition eventually improved significantly, shifting from a terminal prognosis to a more stable outcome. This reversal brought relief but also heightened awareness of the fragility of health and life itself. The simultaneous experience of his own medical collapse and his wife's illness created a period defined by uncertainty, recovery, and emotional intensity. During this time, Peterson continued to reflect publicly and privately on themes of suffering, responsibility, and mortality, now informed by lived experience rather than abstract analysis. The overlap of these crises deepened his understanding of vulnerability and the limits of intellectual frameworks when confronted with real-world medical and emotional challenges. Return, beyond order, and closing reflection. After a long period of recovery, Peterson gradually returned to public life through interviews, lectures, and digital media appearances. His presence was visibly altered, marked by caution and physical fragility compared to his earlier years. In 2021, he published Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life, a work that explored the tension between structure and flexibility in human life. While his earlier book emphasized discipline and responsibility as defenses against chaos, this later work acknowledged the dangers of excessive rigidity and the need for adaptability. He also resigned from his academic position at the University of Toronto, marking the end of a long academic career. His return to public discourse was shaped by his medical experiences and personal losses, which added new dimensions to his earlier ideas about suffering and meaning. The broader narrative of his life had shifted from intellectual exploration to lived confrontation with the limits of control. What remained consistent, however, was his central concern with how individuals face suffering and construct meaning under pressure. His story, as publicly understood, became not only one of influence and controversy, but also of vulnerability, recovery, and the ongoing attempt to reconcile philosophy with the unpredictable realities of human life.